we're 10 minutes late already, and we said we'd start at 1 o'clock, so we're giving them an opportunity to get here. Thank you for those of you who sent in the information regarding the cost of dispatching in your particular town. If I'm right, from Moultonboro, it's like $310,000, if you include the fire.
Sounds about right.
That's total, but still you'd have to have some money in there for mutual, with Lakes Region mutual aid.
And then we'd have to net out costs of maintaining lobby service if we were to not have any dispatch.
Yep.
Basically, we have to shut our lobby, and I think that's a concern that Wolfeboro and
What does that
Conway.
provide? What does the
what's
lobby
lobby
service
do?
provide? What do they do?
Primarily, two elements. One is people who are driving through town and simply come directly to the police department to pull reports, to ask a question, and we have a busy location right there on Route 25 in the
Mhm.
center. The second piece of it is to provide, that's sort of the front administrative support, the receptionist, if you will, when someone's coming to meet with the chief or the detective or the other. And the dispatch unit in our police station is set up such that that dispatcher provides that front line
Yeah.
lobby
Otherwise, there's
support.
no police officer on duty there at the station.
Right, we have occasionally there might be, but there's no dedicated police officer
Right.
just in the station. Perhaps they're a tad more than we'd like sometimes, but they should be out on the road, other than doing their reports and the like.
Okay.
And I think that Wolfeboro and Conway may have the same concerns about that lobby presence, maintaining that open lobby.
In Wolfeboro, I got $340,000 to man their dispatch center. Did you get a figure from Conway? I didn't, and the information
Yeah,
that
we
I
just
got, I
got-
didn't get anything from Conway.
It was just
You did?
550,000 Conway budget, June 25th.
Moultonboro was what, 3?
Here it is.
Did you have to-
That was $550,000 just for police, right?
Conway dispatch budget.
Okay, so that's not only police, then it's also fire.
Mr. Chairman, Moultonboro's for Mr. Chairman.
I had 310,000 when you add it all up. 85,000 of that was for fire dispatch. 150,000, I believe, was for other, and the 75 was for keeping the window open, I guess, right? Or keeping somebody there.
Basically.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman?
go ahead.
Dave Owen from Wolfeboro here. We
Okay.
had submitted our, we call it the communications budget, it's our dispatching budget for the current year, and it totals $395,000. But are you just accepting that down to manpower-related costs, salaries?
They came through in a couple different pieces, and I haven't looked at them for about 10 days now.
Yep.
I mean-
But certainly collectively, we're north of $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you receive our budget materials?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kathy,
Yeah.
I
yeah, Kathy's saying.
got quite a bit from
She did.
Wolfboro.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I think we gave you
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
excerpt of our town report and the police department's statistics
Mhm.
for the last couple of years.
Yeah. So now we know what it costs each town. I've talked with the sheriff's department, and they still think, I'll let Lieutenant Santuccio speak for that, but Well, let me back up. When did Moultonboro start their dispatch?
You talking to me? 'Cause he's a-
No,
I don't know.
Moultonboro, when did you start your
It
dispatch?
it predates me. It was in effect, the current system was in effect when I got there 4.5 years ago. So,
Oh, yeah, it's been in, yeah,
you know, when exactly they did what, I honestly don't know.
yeah. But it was created by, I suspect, the selectmen in Moultonboro through a town vote.
Through the budget process, certainly.
Yeah, yeah, and the same is true for Wolfeboro. Do you know when that got started?
Linda?
It's been there a long, long time. I can't remember, I've been there 31
Yeah.
years, I can't remember when it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, more than 31.
Probably true for Conway as well. And we don't know when we got started here at the county level?
I don't have that info. It's been here as long as I've been a police officer, and that's been 23 years.
Yeah.
I know that when I was old enough to go visit my mother in the registry at the old courthouse, there was a dispatch downstairs there.
Downstairs, yeah,
I don't want to date myself, but I'm pushing 50, so
yeah, okay,
and it was downstairs at the bottom of the steel stairs.
yeah. So Mike, from the sheriff's department standpoint, what do we have to offer?
Well, it's the sheriff's policy and commissioner's policy, I think, the sheriff's office, that will dispatch for anyone who asks us to. Wolfeboro, at Conway, or Moultonboro obviously have specific needs that they want to keep their dispatch. I think in their town, from what I'm picking up on their communications, their window service is very important to the town, and I would agree with, I grew up in Conway, so I think that is a vital part of their needs. I got a call from Scott Carr, I think I mentioned it, and when he is one who actually implemented the current infrastructure, and he said that it's his belief that we can cover everything. We could take on Moultonboro right now if we wanted to. Conway probably, it's all a matter of staffing and maybe in upgrading the amount of stations we have. I think it's our position that if, we'll do whatever the commissioners and the delegation want. We'll, obviously, we certainly would be willing to look at if them coming over to us, we'd be willing to just keep it the way it is. I guess it's my own personal opinion that everyone has their, Conway, Wolfeboro, and Moultonboro have their own dispatch centers for a reason. It's for their own particular community needs. Just as well as the regional dispatch center is here for the county needs. There is a push in the whole United States of going to a regional dispatch center. The sheriff has been pretty clear that he will do what the commissioners and the delegation want.
Okay, yes,
If I might ask, Mr. Chairman, we did get in the package that you provided us at the last meeting, we got a breakdown of calls by different towns. There was one important number, however, missing, which is how many calls are dispatched for the Carroll County Sheriff's Office itself. It's hard to get a flavor of, what that percentage is. And I'm, at this point, looking at this particular page. It was an Excel spreadsheet. It had a couple different blues and had a number of towns. In one set of data I looked at one point it said the Carroll County Sheriff's Office dispatched for 90-some entities. There certainly aren't 90-some here. Perhaps they're collected in the town's other outside category. But how many calls go through the department in total, and how many of those are just for the sheriffs?
I think I have an answer, but I just want to look at that real quick.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, Mr. Chairman, do you have anything for the public to look at?
Do you want to make copies?
no,
To
to answer your question.
that particular thing you're looking at is calls per town.
Right.
So if if we answer a call in Albany, then that's where we go. If we answer a call in Ospey, which we do, then it's all encompassing it. That isn't the amount of calls that Wakefield handles. That's the amount of calls that have come, that are in that town. The number of calls that go to Wakefield, number of.
Basically, the number of calls that we process and dispatch by town.
Yeah.
By
It's not,
town.
It's not,
Whether you've dispatched, so that's, could be a sheriff, Carroll County Sheriff that's been dispatched in that
correct,
town.
could be,
That's it, we don't want to go down that road.
if we dispatch a call and if we send a deputy to assist Milton, which is out of county, it would be under the Milton jurisdiction.
I have a question, like on Route 28, which is a state road in Wolfeboro, if you dispatch a sheriff to something there, would that be a Wolfeboro call?
Correct.
Not a state call?
Our system works purely off jurisdictions.
Okay, thank you.
So if you're dispatching for Tuftonboro, Ossipee, whomever you're dispatching for, you cannot separate whether you were dispatching a sheriff to Ossipee or or an Ossipee police officer. Is that what I'm
We
understanding?
could pull that out, but that is not what that document
Okay.
represents.
I do think that that's the crux of the matter. If there are 100,000 calls going through the center, and I'm just using a number here,
Yeah.
and 50,000 of them are for the general support of the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, I think we agree that we have a collective responsibility to support that collective response. If 50,000 of them are for the Tuftonboro Police Department, or, I'm not looking to pick on anybody, but a particular town's fire department or the other, we don't believe we have a responsibility to support those. I really think that's the crux of the matter, and we need to know that breakdown in order to have a better discussion of that.
Okay, we can break that out? As far as the sheriff's department?
we can, what you want is numbers broken out by police departments, not by towns.
Yeah.
I guess what we're saying is, if you are only dispatching for the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, how many calls is that, and what's that budget look like? And we certainly agree, we have a collective responsibility to pay for that. That is countywide, and that's part of our responsibility.
Yeah.
But if you're dispatching for a police department in a town, we don't believe we should have an obligation to support that effort with our tax dollars.
Can I chime in here? Thank you. I see on that page, that report, you're showing Wolfeboro with 1,062 calls for service. I guess I would sort of question that, in that the town of Wolfeboro has a full-time dispatch center. All of our 911 calls from within the community go directly to the Wolfeboro dispatch. So this 1,062 calls are for dispatching of the county sheriffs within
It could be anything.
Wolfeboro?
It could be, if anything, from dispatching a sheriff to assist Wolfeboro
Sure.
to cover the town, which we
Mhm.
have done, which we are scheduled to do,
Sure.
to a civil service, to doing a transport through there, any of the sheriff's duties. I think
So it's for
everything.
county-related business and assistance to the town.
It's for any activity within the jurisdiction as well.
Anything that comes through the dispatch center here related to the town of Wolfeboro.
Okay.
So when your dispatch center doesn't answer their 911 call and it comes here, we pick it up, we log that call. When the dispatch,
Now, does that happen? Because we generally have dispatchers on.
I don't know why it happens, but
Okay.
we take their calls, Conway takes our calls, we take Conway calls.
It's just a backup.
It's a backup to the system.
Okay,
So if Wolfeboro Dispatch takes a call from Fish and Game and tells that person to call here, to have a Fish and Game officer call them, that
Mhm.
gets logged as a call for the town of Wolfeboro.
okay, I get it.
I got a question if I can.
Go ahead.
And I just want to be clear on this, and when we're moving forward, it's my understanding that Wolfeboro, Conway is not here to speak for themselves, but I would assume it would be the same thing, and Moultonboro, you're going to maintain your dispatch centers, right? So that's not an issue. As far as us talking about taking you on, I don't think we need to do that. That's a dead issue. That you're going to maintain your service with your towns.
Well,
But what you're looking at now
I
is a
think that's
tax break.
likely.
Yeah.
There's not been any specific discussion about coming over to the county system, but I think people were very satisfied with the
Right.
current setup and have come to expect, that their calls are going to be taken care of there in Wolfeboro. So,
Right, and I think that's the right answer. I
Mhm.
just want to make sure that we don't waste time talking about, you guys coming over to us or us taking you on. I think if you guys, and you can tell me if that's, you still want to be part of the plan, but if you're going to maintain your centers, then we should probably focus on just the fact that you want a tax break because of what other reasons.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, some of this started about, 18 months ago, perhaps, when I first came over.
Yeah.
We, in fact, were looking to maintain our lobby presence only from something on the order of, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., something like that, when we have a lot of traffic through town. Folks are first coming in on Friday evening of my house got broken in, all that kind of weekend activity. And we're looking to shift the balance to the county. At that time, there was a need to add, as we were understood it, to add I'm not sure I'm using the right phrase, but a workstation, a terminal station, basically. Additional transmitting equipment, and I forget the name of the mountain to possibly hit us. I know you went down and got the license for the channel.
Far away.
Faraway Mountain, is it? And then added staffing. And so at that point, that simply was not going to happen in the short run, and so we stopped the conversations at that point in time. The biggest challenge that a strong regional presence always faces is with those slightly larger communities. I've been in other states and we had regional centers. No one expected to drive up to my police station and find an open lobby. They knew that wasn't happening. So it was easy enough to join a regional center. In our case, in Moultonboro, we need to maintain a strong lobby presence for much of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And Wolfeboro and Conway does as well. So even if we were to come into the center, there's still a large expenditure that we have to make, and we'd be looking at a net number of something.
That's in addition, though, to the services that we would provide.
That's right.
So that's your business.
It is, and let's say that $1 million is our total budget, and it's gonna cost us collectively $500,000 to maintain lobby presence. That means we would have to compare the costs of our county taxes versus our local taxes.
Mhm.
And so when you close that gap, I think you're right. I think we would probably be interested in maintaining the current system and looking at the other side of it.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer for your town, and it's set up that way for a reason. It's because there's a need. I'll just hit on a few. When you came in 18 months ago, you're talking about the workstation upgrade. That was before we did this upgrade, and we do have another workstation in place.
Mhm.
Staffing might be an issue, but like I said, Scott Carr called me and he said that there's no need for a new microwave link. We've already got everything all established. So that tower issue isn't in play anymore. That being said, I would have to look into it. I don't know.
We'd need to run some radio tests and see if that actually
That's
works.
exactly right. But again, I don't know if this group wants to keep talking about you guys coming over. If you're not going to, I think we need to focus on, a different road here.
the equity issue.
Yeah.
And I think that is it safe to say that collectively that's really what we would like to concentrate
Well,
on?
that was, I think, what prompted
Yeah.
our,
I think that really, the equity issue is
Coming here.
really what we would prefer to expend more time on.
What would Moultonboro want as far as amount of reduction?
Well, I think we certainly understand that we have a responsibility to maintain and support the underlying dispatch service that you provide for county government.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the uptick over that? If 50% of the calls are just for the sheriff's department, it's not necessarily that 50% of the budget is the right number, because you have a certain amount of overhead, certain amount of equipment and like, so then we'd have to establish that. And let's say that it's 40% of the budget. I think we'd like to see that 40% of the budget reallocated back to us, and not necessarily overnight. Certainly, I think, it's gone this way for a while. I'd be certainly happy if it was done over a period of 3 years or 4 years, so that there's no sticker shock to anybody involved. But it's hard to give you a number without knowing what the base numbers are that we're talking about. We did a very rough calculation, assuming that $375,000 of the county dispatch budget was for the non-county entities. I had to have something to illustrate the point. And in that case, if that's the right number, Moultonboro would be looking for roughly $85,000, Wolfeboro for roughly $60,000, and Conway for roughly $40,000. But I don't want to lock into that, because I don't know that those are the right numbers.
Okay.
Just on a personal note, I think, again, I voiced it last meeting, and, I get the equity issue. I'm not a town administrator. Again, I think this tax break thing is a slippery road to go down. The tax rate is set by the state of New Hampshire. It's set by
Right.
DRA, or Department of Revenue. We're looking at, if you're looking for a break for just the dispatch center, that's fine, that's what you're gonna do. But then OSPI's gonna come in and look for a break because we take up a large chunk of their land and have,
Yep.
then Albany's gonna come in and look for a tax break because they only have one guy in the jail and 2 people in the nursing home. I think it's set by the state. I don't think your argument is with the commissioners or even with this current delegation. I think it's somewhere else. And again, that's just my own personal opinion.
Okay.
But
but
it's,
other counties do have different ways of allocating these costs to the communities.
yeah,
And I think what prompted our being here is we Wolfeboro, we pay $400,000 almost to have our own dispatch center. And then because we're one of the property-rich communities in the county, we also pay a big chunk of the cost of providing the county dispatch services for all the other communities in the county. And clearly, we should be making a contribution. Your figures show that you do a fair amount of dispatching of the county sheriff's office and other resources in and around Wolfeboro. Clearly, we should be making a contribution, but whether we should be paying that full freight of duplicating service that we're already providing on our own, that's sort of the crux of it. And I'm not certain how you get to a resolution, whether it's something that gets phased in over time or whatever, but we saw that other counties do have different ways of allocating the cost among the communities. So maybe it would be reasonable to look at some of those methods and see if any of those would be workable to the Carroll County situation.
I'm having trouble trying to figure out how, as a county, we are going to tell the other towns who are not your towns, how are we going to tell these other towns that you chose to have your own dispatch centers, and now they are going to have to subsidize your choices?
I don't think that's the case. I think there are other, as with other counties, there's a formula for what you are getting for the service, all right? We're getting X, we're all gonna pay to have the sheriff there. But if you don't have a dispatch center, it's going to cost you X amount of more for those calls that we have to do for your town, for that. Because that is, let me just get this thing off.
That's a good idea.
$5 in the coffee mess, Mrs. Martin.
Okay, because that's what, they're requiring that much more service. And that is, when I looked at the formulas on the other counties, that's how they did it.
Yeah.
It was because you're asking for more service from us than Wolfeboro is. It's not because, oh, we have a dispatch and decided to do that. And I think there were, as I recall looking at it, there were a couple different ways that they did these formulas. So there would be a mathematical, concrete, understandable method in which you allocated how much it costs to each town. And that makes sense to me. That's why I came, that's why our board.
Did you find that other services that are provided by the county are also in that category? For example, the jail, as far as the number of inmates that are from Wolfeboro? Do you get you pay more for the jail operation than the other counties that don't have anybody in our jail?
If I may, those there's no suggestion here, and there's no suggestion in any other county, that we should take each service and turn it into a fee for service. The other counties that charge where someone is having access that isn't generally available to everybody. So on the issue of the jail,
Yeah.
any community in this state, in this county, may turn out to have someone there.
Yeah.
That's a collective responsibility. The sheriff's office serves the entire county as a whole. That's a collective responsibility. We pay for the general administration as a whole. That's a collective responsibility.
Yeah.
But when you get to the point where you say, oh, shall I provide this service for myself? Or shall I simply step back and let the county provide this? We're saying that that added service that can't be accessed by everybody, and if it can be, we can certainly look at that, but at the time that this all came up, we were told that
It's different.
it couldn't be.
Yeah, it is different now, but
That should not be carried collectively.
I think.
So I think that there is a good argument in response to the slippery slope issue, and, well, what about the jail, and what about the nursing home, and what about the others?
You got a county attorney.
Just like the schools. A community has a collective responsibility to provide for the education of its people, even though I may not have someone in the schools.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess more along with Commissioner Sorensen, Solomon was saying, though, the dispatch center is accessible to everybody, and what she's saying is it's your choice to have your own, and I think they should be worried about the fact that now they have, because you guys decided to have your own dispatch center, full-time departments, all that kind of stuff. How are they now going to go back to where the other towns decided that they were just going to use the services that were available here? Then they have to explain that piece back to them. It is a choice to have your own full-time department, and it is a need in your town. I agree with that. And I can see where your equitability argument does hold some water.